listen. Where you go?
I'm not enough to go hungry. I have everything here.
Just listen. Just listen.
Yeah. Not much. Running away. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, kiddos from the back. Usually they're in the front. Now they're in the back. Good to see you all. What a turnout today. This is a lot more fun. Just in a minute. Yeah. This is a lot more fun than last Sunday when it rained and we had to quick hurry run inside. We get to actually do pet blessing today and let our kids run around as they have wanted to do all winter long. So we're glad to finally officially be outside. My name is Katie. I'm the worship director here at the Grove. Something to draw your attention to if you did not notice yet. There's a sign up here. It has our web address, thegrove.today. This is where, since obviously we don't have a screen, you can go to get song lyrics and you can check in so we can kind of see who's here today so we can keep in touch and just make sure we're welcoming you properly. One thing to know about this, you need to disconnect from our internet if you're connected to our internet, because what does it say? If you're connected to the internet and you try to connect, what does it say? It makes you think that you're...
It says it's a known phishing or malware site,
Yeah.
and that the network administrator has shut it down because it's a known phishing or malware site. I'm the network administrator. It is not a known malware site. We're not trying to steal your identity, but you just need to make sure that you're not connected to our Wi-Fi, and then you'll be able to get on there.
Yeah. And people online, welcome to you too. If you want to drop a hello in the comments, we'd love to say hi to you. So yeah, go ahead and connect on there while you have a chance. If you don't have a smartphone or you would just prefer to hold lyrics and a worship folder in your hand, we have those at the sign back there. Okay, we're doing things a little out of order today. Usually we start with music. Today we're going to start with our connection point. So now that you're all settled in, we want to take a few minutes just to get to know each other. Nothing scary. I realize if you're more introverted, this is oh, or if you're new, it can be a little intimidating. But, the whole reason we do what we do is for community and connecting through community. And so we want to make sure we're not strangers. So we just want to give y'all a couple of minutes to introduce yourself to someone new or someone that you don't know as well yet. And we'll give you a little topic of conversation to talk about in case you need something to talk about. So today, what the question of Connection Point is going to be, what is something you're looking forward to doing this summer? A trip, an activity, a camp. Maybe, hopefully you have some time to just do nothing. Whatever it is, go ahead and take a few minutes, get on up if you're able, and go say hi to someone new.
ahead and find seats again. All right, kids in the back, good morning. Oh. We spent 2 months training you on inside voice versus outside voice. We are outside now. Good morning. That's a 5. Yay. Good morning, everyone, not just kids. My name's Jeremy. I'm the pastor here at the Grove Cottage Grove, and it is so good to be with you on this beautiful June morning. We are a new church that exists to grow goodness, and so my hope is that you're being with us today. You're watching with us online. You're somehow interacting with us out in the community during the week is helping to contribute to healing, wholeness, and beauty in your life. Before we get back into worship, just want to draw your attention to a couple things. First of all, as you walked over here, hopefully you either got one of these worship handouts or you went to this page, which has all of the most important information that you're going to want to know about the church, why we exist, what our values are, how to give to make sure we are able to continue to do all of this. All of that information, if you have the paper copy, is on the inside. If you don't have one of these yet, but want one, they're over there on that sign in the top basket, I believe. Otherwise, again, you can go to thegrove.today and get all of that information. Also, if you are new with us and you want to let us know that you're here, one of the things you can do, if you have the paper copy, there's a worship insert for you to be able to fill out, give us your contact information, turn to the back, and if there's any information that you are interested in learning more about, you can fill that out. If you have any prayer requests, you can do that there as well, and then you can drop it in the bottom basket on that sign at any point during or after the service. Or if you're just using the web page, again, you can do all of that by clicking a button on the web page as well. Then I'll turn your attention to the back, or if you're on the page, the same 3 things are on the page as well. These are the 3 things that we are trying to key in on this month so we can kind of be informed and in alignment together. I will go into detail about all of those announcements at the end of the service. I won't bore you with them now, but if you want more information about them now, if you have the paper copy, you can scan those QR codes and get that information, or you can, if you have the web page up, you can just click on one of those images and it will bring you to the information that you need. The last thing to know is about kids. As you can see, kids are not only welcome here, but they are valued members of this church community, and so we try to create the space for them to feel that welcome. During the summer, while we're outside, we do not have full kids programming. However, we obviously have this space available for them to make use of. We also have a nursery that is inside. It is unstaffed, but it has the live stream going. So if at any point you need to take advantage of the nursery, you are welcome to do that. One thing to remember, though, because we're unstaffed all over the place, it means that you need to keep an eye on your kids. They're welcome to move around the space, move around the cabin throughout the service, but just at least kind of keep your eye out on them to make sure they're not going rogue, right? I think one other announcement that we haven't said yet is restrooms. Restrooms are inside the building to the right. Is there any other stuff that we usually hit on Sundays outside? I think that's it. Okay. With all of those boring details out of the way, I'm going to hand it back over to Katie.
Well, as mentioned, we're a little bit out of our typical worship order today. We usually start with music. We still will be doing music, obviously. But I would first like to lead us in a few moments of prayerful connection. Here's why we're starting with that today. There's a lot going on in the world right now. Not just like in the Middle East, like all over, domestically as well. And we have been exposed to more information and news updates than ever in human history. Like, even just in the last few months, we have witnessed more devastation than I ever hope to see in my entire lifetime. It can be really overwhelming. And we don't want to just move past this and pretend like none of that stuff is happening. Personally, just speaking for myself, I've had a week where my soul felt pretty bare at times. And it's been hard to process all that's going on in the world in between Sundays, like without my community present. I have been longing for this connection, and I sense that many of y'all may need that too. And connecting in ways that we don't often connect as we go about our daily lives, or we're not always connecting online, or even on Sunday mornings, like especially, during outdoor worship. Like we can easily go through the Sunday routine from start to finish and have a good experience, but still be like missing that really deep connection. And it's logistically harder when we do worship outside because we're more spread out. We're chasing kids and pets around. There can be environmental distractions, and it's just really easy to unintentionally brush past the hurts of this world and the longings of our hearts. So, as a way of intentionally showing up prayerfully, I'd like to try something that we haven't done before, but it's going to be sort of a silent but a prayerful visual representation of where we're all at this week, like deep in our souls. So what I'm going to do is I am going to name some things, like some emotions that we might be feeling or experiencing as we are bearing witness to everything going on in the world. As I name each feeling, I'd like for each of you to raise your hand if you share that feeling, so that we can see that we are not alone in what we're experiencing, like privately. Because naming what we are experiencing is simple, but it can be this really impactful form of connection and a thing that will lead us to healing. Online people, obviously, if you raise your hand, we're not going to be able to see it. But if you're watching online and you want to participate, maybe as I say these words, these emotions, maybe you could type that in the comments or even just hit the like button or something, so that way you all who are online can see each other engaging in this too. And Robin, could we actually turn the live stream camera outwards so that way the people online can see the people here? Thank you. Okay, let's start. Who here has been experiencing a deep sadness watching the violence happening in our own country and around the world? Grief. Who is feeling helpless? Not knowing if there's anything you can do to lessen the suffering. Who's been feeling confused? Like not knowing who or what to believe, not knowing where our loyalties lie, not knowing who to trust. Who's feeling angry? Watching institutions and leaders that are supposed to protect us further cause harm or be complicit in times of violence? Anyone got that like holy rage going on? Who here has been feeling numb at times? Like either you're experiencing all of these emotions at once and are just overwhelmed by it, or you're disconnected from your emotions as sort of a protective mechanism and you're unsure how to process it all? Have you been feeling like numb, depressed? Who is feeling fear? Afraid for the outcomes of many different situations, domestic and abroad. The war, climate threats, the upcoming election, just fear for the future, anxiety. And I want to leave space too. Is there anything that I haven't said yet? Any sort of heavy thing that you're experiencing that you could voice here, that if anyone's brave enough to shout it out? Anything I haven't said that you're experiencing that maybe other people are experiencing? Go ahead and shout it out if you want to. I was thinking another thing I've been feeling is guilt at times, like survivor's guilt, or like I'm not doing enough to help guilt. All of that is a lot, and I hope that you all could look around and see each other a little bit and see that you are not alone in what you're experiencing. I have one more word for you. So finally, raise your hand if even amidst all of this hard stuff, you've been feeling hopeful. It's okay if you're not, but if you're feeling hope, that even in the face of all of this, that there is still enough good in the world to overcome the bad. And for those of you that weren't able to raise your hand on that word hopeful, I get it. That was the week I had. It comes and goes, right? And so maybe we can borrow some of that hope from each other in the times when we're not feeling it. Thank you for participating in that. I believe that each of your hands raised are like an honest prayer and a kind of deeper connection, like a kind offering of deeper connection that we have to offer each other. Band, you could go ahead and come up. This month, in the month of June, we'll be talking about justice. Justice June, baby. All month long. Justice is this vision we have for wrong being made right in the world. May all of that hard and heavy stuff that we just named be a driving force in our work for justice in this world. The songs we'll sing today and throughout the rest of the month are ones that acknowledge the need for justice and also lead us onward in hope and in love. So, if you all are ready, can we please sing a song of hope together? Are y'all ready to sing a song of hope together? Okay, please rise, and we will start with Son of God. Seen the glory of the Lord rise with broken lives restored, but not by governments nor fire. We have felt the touch of heaven's hands bend the bones of hearts and men, but not by medicine nor idols. We have tasted mercy for the children of the earth, but not by silver nor by gold, but by the one who lived his throne. Oh, we've seen graves and oceans bow before human feet. Dawn is breaking now, darkness must retreat, for the Son of God, he walks among us. Heard the promise of a land where war will cease from among men, but not by presidents nor trials. We have seen the greatness of our King, oh, that all will be redeemed, but not by military might, but by the men who bled and died. Oh, we've seen graves and oceans bow before human feet. Dawn is breaking now, darkness must retreat, for the Son of God, he walks among us. Oh, we've seen us. He's alive among us. Oh, we've seen graves and oceans bow before human feet. Dawn is breaking now, darkness must retreat, for the Son of God, he walks among us. Oh, we've seen signs and wonders here, held in human hands. A kingdom carrying near, storming hell's demands, for the Son of God's alive among us. He's alive among us. He's alive among us. The Son of God's alive among us. The kingdom of the Lord is here. Come gather all from far and near. Awake your mind and have no fear. God's arms are open wide. No armored guards protect its gates. No tangled chains of judgment waits. Just free your blessed heart from hate, and human come inside. Here enemies stand side by side, by truth and justice unified. It's growing where the old one died, where any wound is healed. Here earthly cries are not ignored. It blooms and lives forevermore, in places that our hands restored, by selfless love revealed. Where kindness overcomes the mean, where love is like the morning's gleam, and peace an ever-flowing stream. The kingdom lives today, when love and understanding's learned, where prejudice is left to burn. Oppression's tables overturned. Oh God, show us the way. Your kingdom come, your will be done. May we sustain what you've begun, till all creation is made one. Jesus, lead us on. The kingdom of the Lord is here. The evening clouds begin to clear. The morning sun will soon appear. Come and reveal the dawn. Amen. You may be seated.
So you might know that today is a special day here at the Grove. It is take 2 of our Bring Your Pet to Church Sunday. You are actually welcome throughout the summer to bring your pet to be with us here in the Grove. However, this is our 3rd summer now, and each of these summers we thought it was a fun way to kick off summer, but then a good opportunity for us to invite pets and to acknowledge that these are creatures that we care for, but also that God cares deeply about. And so it's an opportunity for us to acknowledge that and participate in that together. So we have several dogs out here. We've got a cat on a leash, and we have 2 guinea pigs. Any other types of animals? No goat. That's okay. No tortoise. Are there any animals that I'm missing? Oh, and the stuffy cat. Yep, we had a unicorn last week. Okay, so this is how this is going to go. You have your pets with you. We're not going to ask you to come to the front with your pets. But what we'll do is I will have you where you're at if you have your pet with you. Or even if you don't have your pet with you, but you have a pet back at home that you're thinking about today. I will have you like put your hand on that pet, and then I'm going to read a blessing that we are saying over all of our pets today. And I just want to acknowledge that I'm going to try to hold it together, but my dog who is in hospice care is with us today. And so I love my dog just as you love your pets, and we acknowledge that God loves and cares for these animals as well. So wherever you're at, you can place your hand on your pet or acknowledge your pet who's not with us as we take part in this blessing together. God, our Creator, we ask you to bless our pets with your light and love. May our animal friends have good health, happy lives, and always be protected and safe. We ask for better understanding as we learn from our animal friends' wisdom, their innocence, their loyalty, and particularly their seeming ability not to judge human beings unkindly. Thank you for the pleasures, playfulness, and sometimes the surprising humor our pets display. Thank you for their companionship and friendship. Especially for those lonely hours we may have experienced. Thank you for our companions' natural ability to teach us to be aware of the present moment. Thank you for the pure beauty of every animal. Their form, color, texture, motion is all a work of art, and may we appreciate your creation of this masterpiece. Bless all animals in harm's way, heal the sick, protect those who are lost, and guide them to safety. Thank you for the gift of love. Amen. All right, I'm going to go grab my water bottle and So I get up here every Sunday when I do announcements and I say we are a brand new church, which is not exactly true because we're a 2.5-year-old church. This is our third year of weekly public worship, so we're 2.5 years into this thing, which isn't exactly brand new, but compared to other churches like our Woodbury location, which is 171 years old, we're pretty new at this, right? And even though we're pretty new at this, we have done many of these things a couple or a few times now, which means that we have developed for ourselves some traditions, things that we have done regularly, and it's like, oh, well, this is just something that we do because we've done it 2 or 3 times. Again, not as much as a 171-year-old church, but 2.5 years gives you time to do things over and over again. And so as we move into summer, summer actually provides several of those things that we have done over and over again at this point. Now we're doing it for our 3rd time. Outdoor worship is one of our traditions that we move outside when the weather allows us on Memorial Day. Our pet blessing, this is now our 3rd time doing our pet blessing out here. We have done Juneteenth. We've acknowledged Juneteenth in the middle of June as we get close to that holiday. And of course, we have our Pride Sunday, which happens at the end of June every year. And so as we were thinking through, all right, how do we kick off our summer well? What is a series that we can kind of wrap up nicely and introduce our summer? What's like a theme that we can really key in on? It really made sense, since so many of those traditions that we have developed in these 2.5 years in June happen to be justice related, to just say, you know what, we're going to call this Justice June. And we are going to spend the month of June focusing on several things that we find very important for us to do, even and especially as a church. And so over the next 4 weeks after today, we are going to be highlighting each week a different justice issue that we as individuals and we as a church care about, and highlight ways that we can help contribute to acting justly in that way. So next week, we are talking about creation care. The week after that, we're talking about racial justice right before Juneteenth. The week after that, we are talking about food insecurity, something that I know that this community cares a lot about. And then the last week, so June 30th, we have our Pride Sunday. Before we go into each of those individual things, however, I thought it was quite important for us to first take a step back and define what on earth we're talking about. It's one thing to talk about justice. It's another thing to actually say what we're talking about when we're talking about justice. Does that make sense? So in order to do that, in order to kind of set the context and define terms a little bit, to get at what we're talking about, I want to put us in a courtroom. Not a courtroom that was talked about this last week in Manhattan. I instead want you to think about a courtroom half a world away, 2,600 years ago or such, okay? Let me set the context a little bit for that courtroom that you're probably not as familiar with. You haven't heard as much on the national news. So this courtroom situation happens in the book of Micah. Micah is a book that appears in the Hebrew Scriptures. It is about 2/3 of the way through the Bible that we have. And Micah is a book that is written by, historically attributed to a guy named, guess what? Micah. Yeah, there you go. And Micah, writing again about 2,600 years ago, was what was known as a prophet. And in biblical terms, a prophet isn't someone who like predicts the future. A prophet was someone who spoke on behalf of God. A prophet was a public truth teller. So 2,600 years ago, half a world away, Micah is a public truth teller who is telling the truth, the hard truth, to the individual people of the ancient kingdom of Israel and to specifically their leaders. Micah was living at a time when there wasn't actually a kingdom of Israel that was unified together. He was living in the years after the fact when there had been one kingdom that had split apart. There was a northern kingdom of Israel and a southern kingdom of Judah, whose capital was Jerusalem. That is where Micah was. And during this time, there was all sorts of political upheaval, but the political upheaval was very much a symptom of moral decay and a moral disease that was going on. These were people who were blessed in order to be a blessing, and yet they as individuals and their leaders had kind of forgotten that second part. And they had moved from loving God and loving others to going through the motions and doing all these ritual things in order to maybe get on God's good side, but not really loving God and not really loving their neighbors either. So Micah, this public truth teller, steps onto the scene, and he goes to the people of Judah, and he delivers them a court summons and says, "You have been served." Now, what is included in that court summons? What is included in the trial that is going to unfold? We read that in the book of Micah, chapter 6, verses 1 through 8, which I will read for you. So here's the content of that court summons. Hear what the Lord says. Rise, plead your case before the mountains, and let the hills hear your voice. Hear, you mountains, the controversy of the Lord, and you enduring foundations of the earth, for the Lord has a controversy with his people, and he will contend with Israel. O my people, what have I done to you? In what have I wearied you? Answer me, for I brought you from the land of Egypt, and redeemed you from the house of slavery, and I sent before you Moses and Aaron and Miriam. O my people, remember now what King Balak of Moab devised, what Balaam son of Beor answered him, and what happened from Shittim to Gilgal, that you may know the saving acts of the Lord. With what shall I come before the Lord and bow myself before God on high? Shall I come before him with burnt offerings, with calves a year old? Will the Lord be pleased with thousands of rams, with tens of thousands of rivers of oil? Shall I give my firstborn for my transgression, the fruit of my body for the sin of my soul? He has told you, O mortal, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you but to do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with your God? So here's our case. And if we're thinking about it in terms of like a court case that we might be familiar with today, we have God and Micah speaking on his behalf, who are the prosecution. Then we have the people of Jerusalem and Judah, who are like the defendants. And then the whole earth, even the physical earth, are the jury. Micah says, listen, you mountains, listen, you hills, the foundations of the earth. You get to be the ones who hear this case and help us to make a determination. And so God jumps right into it. God jumps right into the case, again, via Micah, and kind of lays it out here. What have I done to you to put you in this situation? You are not happy with where you're at. That's great, but do not go blaming it on me. You think you have receipts? I'm bringing the receipts. I have the receipts of, I brought you out of slavery, folks. I set you up with these leaders who would lead you into the land of promise to show you what it was like to be faithful people. I am the one who laid out everything before you, the path for you to follow. I have held up my side of the agreement. And it's almost as if you can't refute that evidence. And so the tone moves from, we're hearing from God through Micah, and now Micah speaks in his own voice. And Micah says, all right, well, this evidence is pretty clear, and so you as defendants, you might be moving to try to settle this case. And you might be thinking, well, the way to settle this is to do like all of the burnt offerings that we could possibly do. That's how we'll set things right. Or you'll offer up these animals to God. That'll be the way to set things right and to settle with God. Rivers and rivers of beautiful oil. Maybe that's the way to settle this case. Or maybe you'll go to the point of you offering your firstborn son. We're not going to do that. Right? Micah says, no, none of that. We're not going to settle this case, and we're especially not going to settle it with simply doing those ritualistic things where we're walking through the motions. In fact, you know very well the way to make things right because it's all been laid out. What is it that God is expecting of you? To do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly. Again, there's that word, justice, to do justice. And then it's tied to love kindness and to walk humbly. These aren't just nice things that are kind of added on the end. These are expectations. These are like commitments that everybody who is a person of faith ought to and needs to be engaged in. So much so that this carries on for millennia, right? As these are the things that get raised up. About 600 years later, around the same region of the world, there was this Jewish rabbi who comes on the scene, who has dedicated his life to studying the Hebrew scriptures, to teaching people what they mean and what to do with it. You may have heard of this guy. His name was Jesus. And one day, someone came to this Jewish rabbi who took the scriptures very seriously and said, what's the most important one that we ought to follow? And Jesus responds with saying, the most important one is to love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. This is the major one. Oh, also, it is to love your neighbor as yourself. And actually, those two are intimately tied to one another. And actually, those are the two things, those are the two instructions, those are the two ways of living that are required for everyone, and that everything else hangs on. It begins and ends with loving God and loving your neighbor. The problem with the people at the time of Micah was the same problem with the people at the time of Jesus, is the same problem that is true of many people of faith today. Separating those two things, love of God and love of others in action, right? They cannot be separated. They are meant to be together. They are requirements of everyone who considers themselves a person of faith. Loving God, or some may call it piety. Have you heard that word before? Loving God is essential, but it is insufficient. It cannot end with that. In our church tradition, we're a part of the United Methodist Church. Actually, one of the things that as a child or as an adult is baptized, one of the commitments that either the parents baptizing that child or the adult who is being baptized themselves make, one of the baptismal vows is that they will resist evil, injustice, and oppression in whatever form they present themselves. It is a fundamental part of what it means to faithfully follow Jesus. So what is needed is loving God and loving others in action. What is needed is both personal piety and social holiness. Both are necessary for those of us who want to live as God would have us, and for the world as it is to be more like the world that God would dream it to be. Now, if you have your phones and you have that web page up there, I actually have an image on there that I'll turn your attention to. If you don't have that, I want you to imagine an image of a cross, okay? And the cross is more like a diagram than it is like a physical cross. And if you view the cross on the, let's see if I get these axes right. As you work from the top to the bottom, you work from, I need to actually pull this up so I can see it. You go from works of mercy to works of piety. So at the top, there are works of mercy, and in the bottom, there's works of piety. Then as you go across on the left-hand side, my right, there's private acts, and then there are public acts. Does that make sense? So in the top left, there would be works of mercy that are private. And then on the top left, which is where we are focusing today, there are these works of mercy, these outward things that we do to pursue mercy that are public. Those are what acts of justice are. These public actions of mercy. So justice is the way that we love for care in other people out there. Justice is the way that we make sure that the things that show mercy stop happening and cannot happen again. If you were to think about a polluted river, for example, a polluted river that is impacting the drinking water of a village that is living on that river. Yes, if you are in that situation, you want to make sure to care for the people in that village who have already been poisoned. However, you're also going to want to make sure to go up that river to make sure whatever poisoning is whatever is poisoning it stops poisoning it, so it stops happening, right? Because there's a recognition that that poison not only impacts the people now, but will continue to impact people, and largely will impact all of us. That works of injustice impact all of us if we take them seriously. Here at the Grove, we talk about that in terms of cultivating the common good. It means that we are all connected to this, and one act of injustice towards someone else ultimately impacts us as well. So as those of us who want to grow goodness, who want to cultivate the common good, who want to see God's dream for the world come true, and those who live in the most prosperous nation in the history of the world, we are expected to seek justice. And I want to note that as Katie acknowledged in that opening prayer exercise, works of justice are complicated, and they are big, and they can feel overwhelming. And at times they might even feel like they are in conflict with one another. And so I just want to acknowledge a couple things, a couple pieces of justice that you might be thinking through, that I'm thinking through, and at times might be a little bit overwhelming or contradictory even. Justice for people in Palestine would be not having to live in inhumane conditions and under constant threats of violence from both Hamas and the Israeli forces. And justice for people in Israel would be not having to live in fear of terrorists next door who express desire for them to be wiped out as a people. Both of those things. Justice for people in Ukraine would be not having to live under threat from an imperialist dictator. Justice for people in Russia would not having to live under the threat of the exact same imperialist dictator. Justice for women would be not having to worry about their rights and bodily autonomy taken away. Justice for people of color would be not having to worry about being seen and treated as less than human. This next one just came up this week. Justice for law enforcement would not have to worry about their next call being their last because too many people have too many guns. Justice for the earth would be not having to be constantly pillaged for its resources. Justice for people who are starving would be not having to worry about hunger or malnutrition when the world has more than enough food for everyone. Woof. Those are big, complex, sometimes seemingly contradictory things to try to navigate as people. But the work of justice is a lot like what pastor and author Eugene Peterson, how he described following Jesus. Long obedience in the same direction. Some of this stuff takes a lifetime or longer. Some of it will never be solved, and it will probably never be solved just by you or me or even us collectively. But a long obedience in the right direction gets us closer to the world that God would dream for us. The other thing that I want to acknowledge is that a long obedience in the same direction does not mean that the obedience is the same for all of us. It does not, it will not, it should not look the same for me to seek justice, even on the exact same issues as it looks for you to seek justice. It might be the case that you are a very public and outgoing person who feels the need to share your voice in a very public forum with the people in your life or maybe even online. But that is not the case with everybody. You might be a person who thinks very deeply about things. And the best way for you to seek justice is to inform yourself so that you can collect all of the information that you need so that you can be the person of wisdom speaking into unjust situations. You might be seeking justice by remaining completely silent and being one of those people who write strongly worded emails to people who have influence, but you never say something publicly. Seeking justice might be not knowing what to say at all, but simply praying for insight in the situation, the complicated situation in which you find yourself. Whatever issues resonate with you, whatever gifts or passions resonate with you, just know that one, yes, to be a follower of Jesus, to be a person of faith, there is an expectation that we ought to seek justice. But a long obedience in the same direction means it is going to look different for each of us. So may we use our voice and or our wisdom and or our levers of power in order to grow goodness in the ways that we can, that we might seek justice, that we might love kindness, and that we might walk humbly the whole way. May that be.
We have one more song to sing together today before we go. It's called Instrument of Peace. And this is our prayer that we be people, however we pursue justice, that we be not just peacekeepers, but peacemakers. So sing along as you're able. Lord, make me an instrument of peace, an instrument of peace. Lord, make me an instrument of peace, an instrument of peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is darkness, let me sow light. For in the giving we shall receive, and in the dying we're given life. Lord, make me an instrument of peace, an instrument of peace. Lord, make me an instrument of peace, an instrument of peace. Where there is sorrow, let me sow hope. Where there is doubt, let me sow faith. Where there is injury, your pardon give, your consolation to those in pain. Lord, make me an instrument of peace, an instrument of peace. Lord, make me an instrument of peace, an instrument of peace. Amen. Amen. Amen.
All right, a few final things before we go, before we send you off on your way into this beautiful day. If you have your worship handouts, you can turn to the back to look at those three most important things. Otherwise, if you have, again, this webpage pulled up, all of those three things are on there. The first one is about our property improvement campaign. Every June, we do a property improvement campaign that helps us to raise funds to be able to improve our property, not just for our church, but for many groups that use our church property in ways that are outside our normal operating budget. So 2 years ago, we raised money for what we are standing on right now. Last summer, we were able to replace the projector in the worship center to be able to make sure, you know, you can actually see and read what's up on the screen. This summer, we are focusing on two projects. One of them is around accessibility, and that is specifically trying to get automatic door openers on those front doors so that those with mobility issues, either someone who's in a wheelchair or crutches or someone who's like lugging along a kid who doesn't want to come, can have help opening those doors. And then another one is around safety, which would be a nice fence that goes around this beautiful playground out here. So if you want to know more about those projects, or if you're ready to contribute, you can scan that QR code on here, or you can just click on the image on that webpage. The second one is the Strawberry Fest Parade. Woohoo! It's coming up on June 22nd. We are two-time defending champions of the Judge's Choice Award for Best Float. Yeah, and so number one, if you are wanting to walk with us, put that on your calendar. We'll get you the information that you need in order to participate in that. However, immediately after the worship service, if you're willing and wanting to hang out, we're going to be doing some work together on the float, which is beginning to be assembled right back there. Okay? Planners, Zach, anything else folks need to know? Just hang out and we'll figure it out. That's a very Zach Felstead kind of thing. The other thing, I guess, if you are kind of thinking ahead, is we need candy to be able to distribute during the parade. So if you aren't able to participate today or even that day, but you want to contribute in some way, you can bring some candy over the next couple weeks that we can use during the event. And then the last announcement on here is around Pride Sunday. That is coming up on June 30th. That is a change in date because we were able to get an exceptional speaker to be able to be on that day instead of just me. So again, you can put that on your calendar, plan to be here, plan to invite others to join us as well. The last two announcements, kind of one, which are not on here, is we get to celebrate two people who are stepping into new volunteer roles at the Grove. We got to do that a few weeks ago, but now we get to do that again today. So I'm going to have Nick Ostring and Jenny Tucker come up here. So as they come up here, Nick is starting in a new role as the tech coordinator. So Nick is going to be overseeing like all of our systems. That the best technology is the stuff that you don't notice. So Nick is going to do his job of overseeing the entire system for both indoor and outdoor worship. So all of the technology gets out of the way so that you can focus on connecting with God and other people. We're super excited about the role that he's going to play. And then Jenny is coming on as our new care coordinator. The great thing about a growing young church like this is we have more and more people, but more people, more problems. The more people we have, the more complex that our care issues become. And so Jenny is going to be the point person for us for when someone has a birth in the family or a death in the family or needs some sort of care like a meal train or something set up. She's going to be the person to go to make sure that the people are getting what they need, tangible or otherwise. So I'm super excited about the role that she's going to be playing as well. So you can go sit back down again. But let's give them one more hand.
Thank you.
All right, it was so good to be out here with you today. I hope that this contributed in a meaningful way to your weekend, and I hope that it helped you to feel a little bit better in the state of our world, to know, number one, that you're not alone, and number two, that we're gonna try our best to figure this out together and maybe fail forward in the process, but we're gonna do that together. So as we go, I'm gonna have you stand as you are able to receive this sending blessing. This Justice June, may we not feel overwhelmed or underqualified, but instead feel encouraged and empowered. May we use our voices, our wisdom, and or our access to levers of power, that together we might seek justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with God. May that be so. Amen.